Everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here, Jeff Waldorf here with you on this Tuesday evening. Boy, we got a hell of a show. We got a lot of stories that we want to go through. Some amazing stuff today. We've got the epic fight between Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. That's fun. We also have Mike Pence. Where was Mike Pence during this entire thing? I know where it is. I know where he's at, and so does the internet, and it's awesome. We also have the reaction from senators, Republican senators especially, on that whole interaction, so that is a lot of fun. We also have, of course, some insights into Trump world. Are Trump fans starting to turn on the president based on the evidence from Michael Cohen? Fascinating repercussions from that as well on politicians. And I think that's really, really important to talk about. Then we have a couple of stories of massive injustice to talk about as well. So it is quite a day that we have. So, all right. Hold on here. There we go. All right. Like I said, big show today. We'll jump in, but before we do, please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important that you do that. Helps get the message out, helps get the word out, and helps attract new people to the show. So, and we want to grow the community here. Also, you want to support the show, patreon.com/TYTNation. There's also Super Chat. There's also merchandise. You can check that out too. Maybe get yourself a mug or a shirt for Christmas. And I'll be adding more merchandise to that later on as soon as I actually figure out how to get some artistic talent. And so I can design them. So we'll see what happens on that. Okay. So that's how you can help the show. Like, share, maybe donate, super chat, etc. So that helps out. All right. That said, let's dive into the show. This will be a lot of fun. All right. Started with the first segment. Okay. So earlier today, President Trump got into a little bit of a fight with Democratic leaders Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Now, this happened over the funding for the border wall, which, hey, you know, what wasn't Mexico supposed to pay for the wall? I happen to remember somebody talking about how Mexico would pay for the wall. Now suddenly Trump's like, give me the border wall funding, give me $5 billion, or I shut down the government. Now, I've got video of that interaction where things get a little bit testy and where President Trump basically gives the Democrats everything that they could hope for. Take a look.
I think we can agree on is we shouldn't shut down the government over a dispute. And you want to shut it down. You keep talking about it.
The last time, Chuck, you shut it down.
No.
And then you opened it up very quickly. And
20 times.
I don't want to do what you did.
20 times you have called for, I will shut down the government if I don't get my wall. None of us have said.
You want to know something?
You've said it.
Okay, you want to put that on
You've
my...
said it.
I'll take it.
Okay, good.
You know what I'll say? Yes. If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
And I am proud, and I'll tell you what,
disagree.
I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck, because the people of this country don't want criminals and people that have lots of problems and drugs pouring into our country. So I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it. The last time you shut it down, it didn't work. I will take the mantle of shutting down. And I'm going to shut it down for border security.
Believe you shouldn't shut it down.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Awesome. Oh, you want to shut down the government? Yes, I do. And I'm going to take all the credit for it, even though it's deeply unpopular, so I can get a deeply unpopular wall. My God, is he stupid. Which is great. That actually works out really well. Now, here's my analysis, right? So, interesting things about this. So, this meeting, Donald Trump insisted that this be public. Now, the Democrats, they wanted a closed-door meeting. You know why? So they could basically cave to the president and give him some money for the border wall in exchange for some unsubstantiated promise that will likely go unfilled. Right? You know how the Democrats do this, right? President Trump's like, no, I'm going to put on a show in front of the camera, and I'm going to be tough. Well, that ironically put the Democrats in the position of being kind of tough. So that's what's really interesting about this, by trying to make a show of it. And that's what this is about. This is about theater, right? President Trump was only interested in how he looks to his base, how he looks at the cameras. So he's saying, oh, I'm going to be tough. I'll shut down the government. And, I'm going to get that border wall, and we're going to get the funding and to make the military do it, which he actually can't. All that is basically fan service, right? Telling his fans what they want to hear. But ironically, on policy, he just made it actually a lot harder for Republicans, for them to get that border wall, since now the Democrats appear to be strong, and Trump said, and he handed them all political leverage in saying that, oh, don't worry, Chuck, I'll take credit for a government shutdown. Oh my God, man, that is awesome. So here's the thing, right? Trump's got the optics thing down to basically please his base, but on policy, he can't get anything done because he's too stupid. He's too stupid to understand how to play the game. And understand that Chuck Schumer is about the weakest person that you could go against when it comes on policy. Chuck Schumer will fold before you even make an offer. And so now Chuck Schumer actually looks strong. And that is amazing. It takes somebody who is so stupid and weak and feckless to make Chuck Schumer actually look strong. That's amazing. So this public spectacle ultimately helps the Democrats. Now, here's the thing. I actually wish the Democrats would be strong on this, right? Be tough. But Schumer's not a fighter. We know that. I've been criticizing Schumer for being incredibly weak. So now, what do the Democrats actually want to do? Well, publicly, they're saying that it's up to Mr. Trump to avoid the shutdown, right? What they say would be a disaster. And look, it would be a disaster, especially politically, for Mr. Trump. Now, they said he's got two choices. Either pass 6 non-controversial budget measures, right? And extend Homeland Security funding for a year at current levels, or pass 1-year extensions for all 7 remaining spending bills. After the meeting, they said, quote, we gave the president 2 options that would keep the government open. It's his choice to accept one of those options or shut the government down. Again, you have just successfully made Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer look strong. That's hilarious and awesome. But now one of his arguments, of course, is like, well, I'll shut it down because we need border security. Well, we absolutely need border security. No, we don't. Here's the thing. He is doing this to try to fix a problem that we don't even have. Net immigration on actual policy statistics here, real statistics, and that's something that Pelosi's like, well, we can talk about the real statistics behind closed doors. No, how about we have a conversation out in the open? And how about you call it what it is? What Trump is saying is not factual. It is not factually correct. We do not have, tons of immigrants pouring across the border. We don't have drugs pouring across the border. We don't have people with problems, with health problems coming across the border that are contagious. We don't have any of that. Net immigration in the southern border is 0. There are more people leaving this country than coming in. And those who are coming in, ironically enough, those are doing so legally by applying for asylum, which requires that you be physically present in the United States or at a port of entry. So, I'm frustrated, because President Trump is so stupid and so dumb. He makes the Democrats look good, and the Democrats, they didn't even present a counter argument, a counter narrative to what's obvious in Trump's lies. And so that's the thing that frustrates me about the Democrats. But anyway, one more thing here. And again, going back to what he's saying, owning the shutdown. Well, congratulations, Mr. Trump. You just played yourself. I mean, the wall is deeply unpopular. A majority of Americans don't want to waste money on this wall. So you lose on that. And he also loses on the optics of a shutdown by saying, oh, no, don't worry, Chuck, blame me. I want to have a shutdown. Well, congratulations. If we have a government shutdown, and that would, of course, involve Democrats being strong enough. And I have a lot of reservations and a lot of doubts, unless, of course, you can spur them into staying strong on this issue by challenging them. So, activists, this is your time to shine. Go and make sure that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer do not bend to pressure to fund Donald Trump's border wall. And so far, they're saying, we're not giving 1 cent. We're not going to agree to any of that. And so we need to make sure that they hold on to that promise and don't go into some backdoor meeting and basically give away the farm like they have been doing. And I can cite some examples of Chuck Schumer making deals on, hearing, DACA and things like that, relief for DACA recipients, making deals with Mitch McConnell. Well, Mitch McConnell, basically, as soon as the deal's signed, just laughs in his face. We're still waiting on Mitch McConnell. I mean, you know what? Mitch McConnell's never going to honor that deal. Republicans are never going to honor those deals at all. So you know what we do? We don't make those deals. You let Donald Trump, and this is a negotiation tactic, right? Because right now, Donald Trump has again shown that he is a terrible negotiator. Oh, no, I make the best deals. What are you talking about? No, you don't make any deals. Your deals are terrible, especially for you. But so here's what I say in return. Okay, don't make any deals with Donald Trump. Let the government shut down and then let him own it until he gives up and signs an extension of government funding. Basically, the thing is that you've got to give Donald Trump enough rope to figuratively hang himself. That's how you win. That's how you beat him. By actually staying strong. And the complication that I see, of course, as usual with bipartisan negotiations is the Democrats, they have this uncanny ability to steal defeat from the jaws of victory. So my message to Pelosi and Schumer is stop. You've got him. You've got him. Don't do anything else. You don't have to play the three-dimensional chess because he's not playing. The guy's playing Go Fish. He has no idea what he's doing. Give him enough rope and he will basically own himself. Because that's what he does. So you're dealing with a stupid person. That's how you deal with Trump on policy. You actually stand strong and you actually get him to respect you from holding on to your position. And your position is no money for the stupid wall. So, God, Pelosi and Schumer, just stay strong on this one and do not fund that wall whatsoever. Get Donald Trump to cave. Because believe me, if you do this right, he absolutely will. Okay. Let's move on here. I'm not done with this one. So all eyes were on President Trump versus the Democrats when they had a little bit of a spat in the White House earlier today. Now, this was over funding for Donald Trump's useless border wall. So while Trump and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi were arguing, you didn't really notice the vice president, who was also present in the room. Now, the reason that a lot of people didn't notice the vice president is because he wasn't doing a whole lot. And that enough, and I should say that was enough to get social media users to notice now, wait a minute. Why is Pence even there? Now, if you watch the video, and I've got a snippet of that, he was basically, the vice president was basically just sitting there doing nothing. In fact, let's take a little bit of a look at that.
I think we can agree on is we shouldn't shut down the government over a dispute. And you want to shut it down. You keep talking about it.
The last time, Chuck, you shut it down.
No.
And then you opened it up very quickly. And
20 times.
I don't want to do what you did.
20 times you have called for, I will.
Okay. So you can see he's just like, He's just not doing anything, right? He's just sitting there. Now, of course, social media decided to do what they do best and weigh in on that. And you have a mix of both conservative and liberal commentators that are commenting on it. For example, you had Ben Shapiro. Now, I normally dislike everything Ben Shapiro says, but on this one, you got to give credit where it's due. He wrote on Twitter, quote, that the camera should slow pan on Pence as Curb Your Enthusiasm music plays. Awesome. You also had Scott Dworkin, who said that he was basically a young student in a second grade holiday play who had no lines. Okay, that fits. Aaron Blake, senior political reporter for the Washington Post, wrote that Pence was taking, quote, the potted plant approach to the meeting. And John Rosenberg said he was glad that future President Pence is paying attention. With a photo, of course, that photo of his eyes basically closed. I have more tweets here. I want to show you one here. But first, the ghost of Christmas John says, good to see President Pence is paying attention. Again, with the eyes closed. I've got some tweet pictures here. This one's fun. Pence checking his non-existent watch for 2020. That's awesome. We also have that picture, which is fun. I'll take some of whatever he's having. And we also have this one. Probably the best. Mike Pence in this meeting. All in all, I can surmise that Vice President Mike Pence was not exactly thrilled to be in that room. Then again, hey, would you be if you were there? All right. That's fun. Now let's head into one more thing here. One more story before the break, I should say. And that is Republican reaction. You'll love this. All right. Now, a lot of Republicans are shaking their heads after watching President Trump try to negotiate with Democrats in the White House over funding for the wall. Now, one thing that Republicans have been desperately trying to avoid is a government shutdown. They know because they've tried a government shutdown before, and they got wrecked because of it. Now, according to The Hill, Republican leaders since then have been really trying to steer the president away from a shutdown. Of course, the president's not listening because earlier today he said during the meeting, I will have a shutdown, and you can blame me for it. I will do the shutdown, and I will be proud to do the shutdown. Now, look. This is a guy who boasts that he has the best brain, that he's a very stable genius, right? And he's taking credit for a government shutdown that would be deeply unpopular politically in order to try to get a wall that is also deeply unpopular politically. And so, he told Democrats that he'd be proud to shut down the government. Now, the response from fellow Republicans in office is awesome. Asked if he had seen the exchange on television, Senate Republican Whip John Cornyn said, quote, I did. Unfortunately, I wish I didn't. Senate Republican Conference Chairman John Thune basically threw up his hands when asked about his reaction. That's great. He said, quote, I heard it was very entertaining television. That it was indeed. Finally, Senate Appropriations Committee Chairman Richard Shelby from Alabama, who basically urged the president in a private meeting before Thanksgiving to not shut down the federal agencies over a border wall, said simply, boy, I would have handled that one differently. Yeah, no kidding. I think any Republican would have handled that a lot differently, but Trump's not savvy enough. He is actually really dumb, doesn't understand how to actually do things, doesn't understand the political blowback is going to hurt both him and the party. And he doesn't care about the party, of course. He doesn't care about the Republican Party, but he does care about himself. And so what I think was basically a political stunt, making sure that this was on camera in front of reporters, he's basically telling his fans, no, don't worry, I'm going to be tough when it comes to the border wall. But in doing so, he basically just gave the Democrats the upper hand by saying, oh no, I'm going to own a shutdown. You have just screwed yourself and made sure that there will A, be no funding for the wall, and B, no government shutdown. Way to go. Because he'll give up before it even happens. I can almost guarantee it, but I won't 100%. We'll have to see what happens. But I think he's a dumb person. I don't think he's dumb enough to actually do that. We'll see. We'll see. Now, that's Republicans. I've got a great quote here from Nancy Pelosi of all people. I know, right? So Pelosi, in a closed-door meeting, according to an aide who was there, said, quote, for the wall, it's like a manhood thing for him, as if manhood could ever be associated with him, this wall thing. Oh, snap. He just took aim at President Trump's manhood. Oh, who knew I would give Pelosi credit for probably one of the biggest burns in this Trump presidency. That is awesome. Tell us how you really feel, Nancy. I actually wish you would do that out in public. Oh, there's so much great material you could talk about his mushroom dick. But of course, nobody wants to talk about that because gross. But that is awesome. I'm going to give her a lot of credit for that, for saying that, because that's amazing. But no, look, I think pretty much we should all know by now that President Trump is the dumbest man alive. Now, if you still think he's a stable genius, I'm not going to be able to help you, right? But he has literally shown throughout his entire term how you can be born rich and white, and that alone, and with with a big name, that alone can like catapult you to the presidency, to higher office. He shows you how you can fail upward as long as you have money and power. You could be as dumb as a brick, and you can still get into the halls of power. That's amazing. But this guy is the standard bearer for Republicans. It is no wonder that GOP senators and congresspeople despise him. They're like, oh, what are you doing, you moron? And look, it's about time, I think, for the Democrats, for Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, to actually start treating him like one. That's the only way, I think, the only way that we should actually treat him. And let's move on. Okay. I don't think I need any more on that one. All right. I'm going to take a break. We'll come back. We got more stories here. Interesting stuff, including Orrin Hatch on Trump's supposed crimes and what's going on in Trump world. So we'll be back with those stories. Stay right here around the nation. All right. We'll be right back. Everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Okay. Got a super chat to read here from Platypi. Says, Trump is a walking, talking, tweeting embodiment of everything that's wrong with the world. But you can probably say the same about most politicians. I can definitely say it a lot, but there is a scale. So when you're talking about the regular corruption, obviously that's bad enough because that enables people like Trump. But people like him, and actually people who are more dangerous, like people, for example, William Barr, who we did a story about yesterday, who's basically a fundamentalist and wants to make sure that children are basically indoctrinated into a religion, in this case, the Catholic religion, right? And use that and eventually take over the government and instill religious values on everyone else, Judeo-Christian values, etc. Well, that's very problematic, and that's incredibly dangerous. That's even more dangerous than a buffoon like Donald Trump. Now, what makes Trump dangerous is actually the fact that he's got a lot of fascist tendencies. He's just not smart enough to enact them. But he can surround himself with people who also have those same tendencies, and that can cause a lot of damage. So there is, I think, a scale, a ranking scale, with how dangerous people are. But generally, you're right, and generally I do agree with you. He definitely is one example of things that are wrong with the world, especially when it comes to how wealthy and powerful people can float right to the top like a turd. So, like a turd in the punch bowl, man. All right. Let's move in here. All right. Here we go. Boom. Are some of Donald Trump's fans starting to turn to the reality of what could happen to the president? Now, this is in regards to the Mueller investigation. Now, following Michael Cohen's sentencing guidelines, some of Trump's more hardcore supporters are reportedly starting to question whether or not the administration could end up being in serious legal trouble. Now, already White House staff and Trump allies are experiencing what one official calls a, quote, reality tremor, which is to say they're increasingly aware of President Trump's rising legal and political vulnerability. Now, it's also being reported by Axios that some top officials are much more attuned to the political fallout from the Mueller investigation and are growing anxious about Trump's re-election prospects, which is to say, if you're in trouble with the law, it make it a little bit more difficult to get reelected. That said, on the outside, some hardcore Trump allies, who have mostly accepted his denials about the Mueller investigation, have been rattled by the specificity of Friday night's revelations by the special counsel and by federal prosecutors. Interesting. Now, one Trump loyalist that they talked to said after a day of conversation with other hardcore Make America Great Again online influencers, quote, these are the people that are most predisposed to believing the witch hunt rhetoric, but they are now expressing real concerns about the investigation. Even these diehards, quote, start looking at the legal stuff and have a hard time dismissing it all. Now, Trump himself immediately dismisses all of it. Oh, it's a witch hunt. It's 17 or 12 or 14 or 22 angry Democrats. I don't know what number he's going to come up with next, but that's how he's described this. Oh, it's the Mueller and the Democrats. They're after me. They're going to come after me for anything, even a private transaction between me and Stormy Daniels, or more specifically, paying off Cohen to set up a shell company to pay off Stormy Daniels right before an election, which would appear to be a campaign finance violation, right? So now, looking at this and looking how detailed the Mueller reports are, you got people that are like, ooh, this is really hard to ignore. It appears that the president might be a criminal. I know, it's sort of shocking to find out that somebody who also ran a fake university that took people's money also happens to be a crook when he gets into office. Shocker. I know. But stay with me here, right? I mean, who else could have known? Well, pretty much everybody that was paying attention. It may shock you to know, though, interestingly enough, that I'm not the biggest fan of Robert Mueller. Well, now, wait a minute. Whoa, I talk about the Mueller investigation all the time. You might think I'm one of the Mueller's biggest fans. No. Here's the thing. He's a Republican. He was actually involved in the Iraq War and covering for it. And he is a so-called resistance hero beloved by people like Neera Tanden and the DNC establishment. People that I'm not in favor of, right? But here's the thing. I'm actually looking at the facts and not letting my personal objections to his specific ideology to cloud my judgment on his work. Looking at his work, it has been extremely thorough. His actions on this case speak for themselves. You have 4 guilty pleas already, right? Over 50 indictments, an incredibly professional team who were able to get Trump's personal lawyer and fixer for decades to flip on him. That is incredibly impressive. We've basically been watching in real time the FBI take apart piece by piece a criminal organization. Amazing, right? And he's not even close to being done. But there's more. According to that Trump loyalist, I think the Southern District of New York, where prosecutors said Trump directed Michael Cohen to make hush money payments to women, has changed people's perceptions. That's viewed as a greater potential threat to Trump directly than Mueller. Collusion is still met with eye rolls. And of course, I'm not exactly surprised. Again, collusion is something that here on the left, a lot of fellow commentators are saying that's not the big deal. No, if they go after just collusion, then you're going to skip all sorts of other things and probably not nail Trump on it. And the thing is I agree with that. You're not going to get Trump on collusion. You are going to get him with financial crimes and money laundering. So if he's laundered money for the Russians, well, then you got him, right? And there are some very interesting transactions that they are probably looking at. If someone like me can point them out, then it's almost certain that Mueller himself and the Southern District of New York, other prosecutors, other investigators, are actually looking into these things, right? And not only that, but what we saw from Cohen being directed to break campaign finance laws on behalf of Trump and the organization. So now, what makes this more believable in Trump's world, by the way, is his explanations. Now, Trump's not a very smart guy. He's not a very stable genius, right? So him trying to explain away hush money payments to a porn star as a private transaction that's completely illegal isn't working anymore. Because at least people know the law. They know that you're not supposed to pay off in hush money porn stars right before an election. Because they know that, well, man, that's obviously he did that to make sure that that didn't come out before the election because it might have made him look bad. Now, I'm not saying that Trump fans would have been like, oh, no, I'm not voting for him based on that. Come on, this happened after the tapes where he said, basically admitted that he grabs women by the genitals without basically asking, without permission, right? So he grabs women. So would this from some? Probably not. So he could have been out there and saying, you know what? I probably didn't even have to pay that money. But his denials, first his lies, then his denials about it. And then when it came out that it actually had happened, he's like, oh yeah, well, you know what? It turns out it is true, but it's not actually against the law. So haha. Come on. Even the most diehard Trump supporter can look at that and go, oof, Jesus. What is he doing? Why is he doing this? Why is he constantly lying? But you have to understand, Donald Trump, that's all he does. He is a serial liar. He lies all the time. Let me give you an example here on one of his ridiculous legal explanations. So we'll go to that smoking gun tweet that he tweeted out yesterday. No smoking gun, no collusion. That's because there was no collusion. So now the Dems go to a simple private transaction, wrongly call it a campaign contribution. But it was a transaction that Cohen had paid Stormy Daniels through a shell company and then was paid back by the Trump organization right before an election. I'm just saying. Not only that, but he continues, which it was not, but it was. But even if it was, it's a civil case like Obama's, but it was done correctly by a lawyer, and there would not even be a fine. But if the lawyer messed up, lawyer's liability if he made a mistake, not me. Cohen just trying to get his sentence reduced. Witch hunt. Those are the ramblings of a madman. Who can take that seriously? Even if you support, the wall or support President Trump's policies, you can't listen to that and be like, oh yeah, no, that dude totally makes 100% sense and he's not crazy at all. Come on, man. Look, so now apparently some Trump diehards are like, I support you, but man, you're stupid. This is ridiculous. You have basically been caught giving campaign contributions. Just own up to it, right? Now, it's not in the investigations where he's losing some people as well. I've read countless articles where some of his broken promises are, well, pissing people off, right? For example, protecting jobs in coal. Well, coal is dying. The coal industry itself cannot be saved. And the coal industry has what? About 60 to 70,000 workers. The solar industry, by comparison, has over 300,000 jobs. And you can definitely expand that. Whereas coal is now more expensive than getting wind energy. So it's actually cheaper and more efficient to go with renewables. And so President Trump, no matter what he does, he'll never be able to bring back the coal industry. That is a broken promise. Not only that, but you have auto manufacturing, right? Now, auto manufacturing is being outsourced. For example, recently I reported on GM laying off over 14,000 people. That's 14,300 people in shuttering plants in both Ohio and Michigan and moving the Chevy Blazer production to Mexico. Add in Carrier, who also laid off a bunch of people and moved somewhere else, Harley Davidson. Then you've got the news today with Verizon. Now, Verizon is announced that they're laying off 10,000 workers. But they say, oh, no, it's voluntary. We basically convinced 10,000 people to leave the company. That's 7% of their workforce. And this is after getting $4 billion in tax cuts from President Trump's tax legislation. So what? So we're not winning there on manufacturing. You've got steel tariffs that are incredibly high. That is also hurting the economy. You've got soybean tariffs. But hey, he's a tariff man. What are you going to do? He doesn't understand that it's not other countries that pay the tariffs. It's Americans that pay the tariffs. We end up paying that. And that's essentially a higher tax. A tax on us. On consumption. Which is the obviously the most regressive kind. The stock market right now kind of imploding. Wages are stagnant. The deficit's going up. It's actually soaring, etc. So, yeah, he's not doing very well. Oh, I thought we were going to be winning here. What's going on here? Where's all the winning that we were promised? Oh, right. The only people that are winning right now are the donors, who are running away with billions of dollars in gigantic tax cuts. Well, way to go. But now he's losing Republican voters, is what I'm trying to say. And if he loses enough voters, which could be the case down the road a little bit longer, if he loses enough Republican voters, then eventually he's going to lose GOP members in Congress. Now, he hasn't lost them yet, even though it's been reported that a lot of them secretly hate the president because he's an idiot. If he loses enough support, though, if they lose enough support, which, look, let's be honest, this blue wave that happened, they lost over 40 seats in the House. And if, look, a lot of the districts, a lot of the places wouldn't have been gerrymandered to hell. And if it wouldn't have been Democrats defending a lot of seats in the Senate, well then, it is possible Democrats could have picked up the Senate as well, but they didn't. So now, a lot of these Republicans are pretty worried about the re-election chances. So if it gets worse with voters, if Trump becomes more unpopular among Republicans, they'll drop him like a hot potato. And if Mueller's report is as bad as what people are expecting, oh boy, here it comes. Anything is possible at this point. Now, I'm not saying that impeachment or something is guaranteed. I don't know. But I do think the end game might be in sight when it comes to the Trump presidency. And again, that's my speculation, and that's me not knowing the details of the Mueller report. However, it looks like Trump world is concerned enough about that report to hit the panic button. And that, I think, is significant. Okay. I talked about some Republican diehards. Well, we've got some that are still left. One of them happens to be Orrin Hatch. All right. Now, outgoing Senator Orrin Hatch told reporters point blank that he actually doesn't really care about President Trump's legal troubles. Now, Trump, also known as Individual One, when you're known as Individual One, that's not good, is facing some possible legal problems due to breaking some campaign finance laws regarding some hush money payments made to two porn stars, Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, during his election bid. Now, it's alleged in the sentencing memos released last week that he had ordered Michael Cohen to make those payments and then use organization funds to pay Cohen back. Now, he called those quote-unquote legal fees. However, when you're talking to experts on campaign finance, the timing and the reason make them look a lot like campaign finance violations, right? So now, here's the thing about that. It was actually made in the waning days of his presidential campaign, and it was geared to bury the story from the press because they thought it might hurt his election chances. And so it's a campaign contribution. Current U.S. law says you can't lie about payments, being legal fees in order to skirt the $2,700 limit on campaign contributions. You can't do it. So now Hatch doesn't actually care. Now, Hatch is a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, so he's supposed to know about justice, but apparently he doesn't. Now, he told CNN's Manu Raju that he doesn't care and that he doesn't think the president was actually involved in Cohen's hush money payments on his behalf. I want to give you the tweets here. Hatch dismisses allegations of Trump crimes over hush money. Asked if he had any concerns, Hatch said, quote, "The Democrats will do anything to hurt this president." That's a Democratic plot. No, if anybody hurt Donald Trump, it's Donald Trump. He almost owned himself. His corruption knows absolutely no bounds. But Hatch is still, oh no, it's Democratic plots, witch hunt. All right, let's continue. Told it was alleged by the Southern District of New York. Hatch told him, okay, but I still don't care. All I can say is he's doing a good job as president. Well, now wait a minute. The deficit's up. Verizon is laying off 10,000 people. GM is laying off 14,000 people. Manufacturing is down. Tariffs are hurting soybean manufacturers, soybean farmers, I should say. You have tariffs on aluminum and steel that are driving up the cost of goods and services. And you have a trade war with China. How is he doing a good job as a president? Where's the good job here? Come on, man. Okay. Anyway. Now, Hatch also added this when he was asked about if he was concerned about some of the allegations. He said, quote, "No, because I don't think he was involved in crimes. But even if he was, you can make anything a crime under the current laws. If you want to, you can blow it way out of proportion. You can do a lot of things. I mean, under the current laws, you can make anything a crime. Wait. Were there laws before where you couldn't make things a crime by passing a law? I don't quite understand. And look, under the current laws, if he wants to talk about that, what Cohen did was a crime. And it's been a crime for quite some time. Whether or not you agree it should be a crime, right now it actually is. So, now that's despite Republican efforts to make bribery 100% legal, because that's what this is. Look, that's what campaign contributions are. It is a form of legal bribery. If it were up to me, I would get rid of all campaign contributions. I would make elections 100% publicly funded. Get all the corporate money out, get all the union money out, get it all out so that the politicians work for us and not private donors. Public financing means they serve the public. Private financing means the politicians serve private interests. I don't want that. Now, Orrin Hatch thinks, oh no, I actually love that system of corruption. I love that system of legal bribery, and I think we shouldn't have any limits on this. Law, I don't care about the law. I want to change the law so that bribery is 100% legal. So now, Hatch continues. He went on to suggest that Trump's alleged wrongdoing came from before he became president. And so it holds no bearing on the present. You know, you want to talk about how much of a double standard that really is. I mean, you could bring up all sorts of issues where Republicans have said, oh my God, I can't believe he did this in his past. Get him. Get him, impeach him, get him out of office. Now, I'm going to give you the quote on this. President Trump, before he became president, that's another world. Since he's become president, this economy has charged ahead. And I think we ought to judge him on that basis, other than trying to drum up things from the past that may or may not be true. First off, this alleged campaign contribution, right? This happened, yes, true, before he became president. But while he was running for office to become president, while he was the Republican nominee. Look, at the time of this hush money payment, this was several months before the actual election, before he had won. I'm not sure how that would have made it any better. If it were, I mean, you know, back then. It doesn't. Now look, I don't actually care about him sleeping with hookers, whatever. Or porn stars. I did not suggest that Stormy Daniels is a hooker. She is not. Karen McDougal, also not a hooker. I'm just going to be 100% clear. Okay. Porn stars, right? You know what? I don't even care if he slept with hookers. I think sex work should be legal. So I don't care what you do. I do care, though, that you used campaign money to basically make sure you bury that story in order to help your election. That you broke campaign finance law. That's what I actually care about. I'm looking at laws here. And so is the Southern District of New York. And so is Robert Mueller. And Cohen, from his statements, if he's to be believed, clearly broke the law on Trump's behalf. And look, to be honest, they wouldn't give him a plea deal to where he would spend no time in jail unless they could verify what information that he has given him. Why do you think Paul Manafort lied? Paul Manafort got caught. Now he's going to spend a lot of time in prison, as well as having all of his assets taken away. That's what happens when you lie to Robert Mueller. But when you actually tell the truth, then you get time off. Then you face the possibility of having no jail time. And he has shown Trump in his own power play that he can be just as powerful as Trump in making sure to give out what are considered to be, not necessarily considered to be pardons, but basically are just like pardons. He did it with not Manafort, did it with Flynn, and he did it with Cohen. So that's the power that he has, right? So now getting back to Mr. Orrin Hatch here, his argument is, I don't care. It's Democrats. He didn't do it. It's in the past anyway if he did do it. And hey, guess what? Isn't the economy fantastic? He is basically throwing everything at the wall and seeing what argument is actually going to stick. There's like 4 or 5 different arguments in that he uses in this entire interview. So that kind of shows you that no matter what happens, people like Orrin Hatch are going to defend President Trump. Why? Because he is a Republican partisan hack. And the Republican Party should be embarrassed about giving someone like Trump a pass. But of course they do it because they do it for the donors. They have shown that they don't care about anything except their own political power and, of course, pleasing the donors. That's Republicans right now in a nutshell. Okay. I was going to take one more break, but I got to keep going. I got a couple more stories here, including ones that were going to be incredibly frustrating here. All right. So let's just move on. A young Texas man has been convicted of raping a woman at a party, has just gone free. This man, Jacob Anderson, who is the former president of Baylor University's Phi Delta Theta fraternity, will not serve any prison time for the 2015 rape of a fellow student. Now, under the terms of this plea agreement that he made, he will not be required to register as a sex offender either. You've got to be kidding me. Now, according to the Waco Tribune, he would only have to pay a $400 fine and receive counseling. Really? Now, if that's not infuriating enough, let's get into the details of what he has been charged in doing. Now, in March of 2016, an officer had told the Waco Tribune that according to the arrest affidavit, the woman, then a sophomore at the university, was given a drink at an off-campus frat party. Now, when she took that drink, she apparently became very disoriented and was taken outside by the suspect, Jacob Walter Anderson, and she said that when they got outside, Anderson forced himself upon her and had sexually assaulted her. Anderson then took the woman to a secluded part of the grounds behind a tent in order to get some air. However, once away from everyone else attending the party, sexually assaulted her. Court documents also stated that the victim had lost consciousness during that time, but awoke alone a short time later in the same outside area before returning to the house and finding a friend who then took her immediately to the hospital. So from the details, he allegedly drugged her and then raped her. And now those are the allegations. They're very serious allegations, and they ended up going to court. However, before he could even be found guilty, he entered into a plea deal with the district attorney's office. They apparently offered Anderson, who was originally indicted on 4 charges of sexual assault, a plea deal for a lesser charge of unlawful restraint. That is considered a 3rd-degree felony, meaning that he will basically get probation. And if he completes the 3 years on deferred probation, he will end up walking without any sort of criminal record. So that he allegedly raped a woman at a party, drugged her, raped her, and people won't even get to know about it. Again, if you do this kind of sex crimes, well, you end up having to register as a sex offender. This guy doesn't have to do that. Wow, man. Jesus. Now, former McLennan County District Attorney Vic Feasel, who is the lawyer who represents the victim's family, told KWTX, quote, "As a former DA, I never, ever have seen such a sweetheart deal for a defendant like this." He added, and this is so true, "It pays to be rich and white in McLennan County when you're charged as a crime." Wow. Now, again, this is happening in Texas. And they just let this guy go because he's wealthy and he's white. Imagine, if you will, if it were a poor black man. Now, if a poor black man did this, well then, obviously they throw the book at him. And look, I'm not saying that I'd defend the person if he were black. No. I'm just saying that there's a disparity here. You know, a black man would never get a sweetheart deal. They would look at him and be like, what a thug. Lock him up, throw away the key. But if you're a white man who has money, well then, obviously, well, I don't want to ruin his life. He's got a great life ahead of him. I don't want to destroy it. No, he'll become a good model citizen later on in life. And so we're just going to have to let him go off easy. I mean, probation, obviously, but, just to not ruin his potential. So here's the thing. Now, out of the black man, I wouldn't want to see a black man get this kind of deal either if he did this crime. No, we actually have laws for a reason, and we should actually, I don't know, punish people for raping women. But God damn it, man, here we have a justice system that lets pieces of garbage like this guy actually go. Now, what message are you sending when you do that? Go ahead and allegedly drug and assault women. But only if you're white and wealthy, by the way, because turns out if you do so, then you're actually probably going to get away with it. I mean, look at Brock Turner. Brock Turner served 3 months in jail for getting caught raping a woman behind a dumpster. This is a situation, this is why Me Too exists, right? This is why women don't report. This is why women are pissed off at a justice system and think, well, why should I report when nobody ever does anything? Why should I go through this kind of hell and this media attention, this scrutiny, the death threats, etc., and actually trying to get justice when I'm never going to get justice? Ever. I mean, the rapist literally just walked away. Now, before we go, I want to give you one more quote here from the victim. She said, she said, he stole many things from me the night he raped me. I will never be the same again. Now, I not only have to live with his rape and the repercussions of the rape, I have to live with the knowledge that the McLennan County justice system is severely broken. I have to live with the fact that after all these years and everything I have suffered, no justice was achieved. And she ends up by saying, quote, he stole my body, virginity, and power over my body, and you let him keep it for all eternity. Now, we have got to fix this injustice system for victims like these and make sure that everyone gets fair justice. And we are far from that. All right, guys. I got to go. TYT coming up next as well. So tune into that. Thank you, guys. Please like and share. Please consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation. Sign up Microbinge, who's a partner as well. And that's it. Thank you for the super chats. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you guys tomorrow.